Hi, my name is Doug. I'm a person long-term recovery. I'm a recovering addict. I'm also a person that lives with mental health issues that I live with today and instead of suffering from as much. And I'll share a little bit about my story. I grew up over in Cincinnati, Ohio. Um, I had kind of a rough childhood, I guess. It wasn't rough until about, early on. I got molested by a family member. Um, didn't really no one really believed me, so I shut down right away. And I remember being in probably fourth grade and going to grade school and wanting to die. So it started early with me, so it developed into other things, depression, anxiety. Probably had some ADD like every other kid probably. Um, but I also realized later that I lived with PTSD. And trauma was a huge part of what was rooted in my difficulties as a child, as a young adult. Um, Started using drugs, started drinking probably 13 years old, 12, 13. Start By the time I was 15, I was doing every drug I could get my hands on. LSD, cocaine, PCP, all the drugs I could get my hands on because I wanted to. What I was doing was I was self-medicating. And I realize now that I was self-medicating for years, and I always I always kind of looked at that I was partying, and not there was some good times there because I was escaping from reality. I was escaping from my own thinking, my own brain, and I just couldn't deal with my own thoughts. And when I was by myself, when I was not using, I um I was ate always felt like I was eaten up by the trauma and had a lot of self-hate. I didn't really know myself for years and years, didn't know who I was. All I knew is I was somebody who lived with trauma and somebody that lived not really wanting to be here, you know. I just turned 64 last Sunday, and when I was 17, 16, 17, I really didn't think I'd make it to 21. Um, Things got really bad for me back when I was 17 to 18 and hit a bottom really hard with a lot of substances that I was using and owed a bunch of people money and, just one of them stories. So I found the only thing I could think of was a geographical cure. I needed to find some way to get out of town. I owed bikers money. It was bad. So I joined the U.S. Army and I joined the Army thinking in my head, thinking that it would take care of the using part. I wouldn't use anymore. If I was using, I'd be cured. I wouldn't have this constant I hate myself kind of feeling. I could do something, I'd be proud of myself, get in good shape. If I found out with the geographical cure that I had to take me with me. And I stopped doing drugs almost the entire time I was in the army. But I drank excessively every day. I mean, drank all the time, morning, afternoon, night, drink ourselves into stupors every night. I was having blackouts towards the end of my enlistment. I was starting to get the shakes and the whole thing with alcoholism. And so when I got out, I said, alcohol is a problem. So I went back to drugs. I quit drinking, went back to the using drugs, you know, did all the things addicts do, ran through different drugs, different ways of doing it, using needle and just got really bad, really bad. I had a series of overdoses and psych ward stays, a few times in jail, and finally I had enough, and so I attempted suicide again, and back in the hospital, and they referred me to treatment. So I went to treatment, and it was the first time that I had found some hope because I started talking to some other people like me. They had also grown up with some trauma. They've also used drugs to self-medicate, and they also had a lot of them undiagnosed, like myself, undiagnosed mental health issues. And I remember it was the first time I started finding hope. I started going to support meetings, 12-step recovery, started finding hope and finding out that I didn't have to stay in that old place of hopelessness. That was, you know, people told me things like, pain is going to happen in life. You're feeling pain now. Let's share about it. But, pain is a given with this life that we have, but misery is an option. I don't have to feel the misery anymore, the hopelessness of that. And, um, and I try to remember that, I've gone through, just recently, some really hard times with my mental health and a suicide attempt. And it got really bad, once again. But I remembered that from my early times in recovery of someone saying pain is going to happen, you can get through it, but misery is an option. And I started choosing hope. I saw again, and that's where I'm at today. My friend Matt making this video, to let others know that there is hope. Let others know, just like I did when I started going those early times and meetings, that you're not alone. You're not alone, and others have walked through the same pain you're walking through. You know, uh, Try to help people find hope. I work as a peer and a peer support specialist, and I try to bring others hope. Let them know that we just don't have to suffer this thing called life alone. We don't have to do this by ourselves. Matter of fact, I've realized that I can't do it by myself. When I try to do it by myself, I go back to suffering from my mental health issues and my substance use disorder, suffering extremely to where I don't want to suffer anymore, and that's where I want to way out. So, but I find out that by help from others and support from others and going to support groups, that I can go and move beyond that hopelessness to realize that I don't have to just endure the pain. I can, once again move to the misery as an option. And I start making some healthier choices. And that's what it comes down to. And I have to make healthier choices. And I got first thought wrong disease because my first thought's going to be compulsive. It's going to be sometimes based in self-centeredness, sometimes based in my trauma bonds. It's going to be based on that. But when I ask for some help from others, when I ask for a power greater than myself, a God of my understanding for help, I can get restored. I can get restored to a little bit saner. The second thought doesn't have to be the insane thought. I can be restored to sanity, and I can make a healthier decision if I wait for the second thought before I act on it. And that's why I'm sitting here today. I've made some really bad choices in my life, but ever since I was in that treatment center and I found out about hope, I found out other people also had suicide thoughts when they were in fourth grade. Other people also suffered, and I wasn't alone. I didn't have to be stuck with this thing and be in bad company again with my own thoughts, my own pain, with my own trauma. I could reach out and connect with somebody else. Once I make them connections, that's where the hope, it's like a bridge. You build a bridge from hopelessness to hope by connecting with others, and we're going to connect with something. Is what I found out in my recovery journey is we're going to connect with something. For a long time, I connected with drugs and alcohol. That's what I connected with. That was my coping skill. That was my solution. And when I got clean sober, I got rid of that destructive, self-destructive solution. And I started trying to find another one. Started seeking to find hope. And I think everybody has that opportunity. Even at the depths of my mental health spiraling out of control, I still know there's hope, and that hope's available, and hope's I can once again learn to live with my struggles instead of suffering from my struggles, my trauma, my pain, my mental health, my substance use. I can't, but we can. And I think I'll let it work for me too and continue to let it work for me. And that's about all I got. And just wanted to share some hope with y'all. And thanks for listening. Everybody have a good day.